Hi, this is Flo, and I'm going to describe how you do layering, and I'm going to do this by using Create a Critter. Now I'm going to use the little reindeer on page 73 to do this, and if I go to page 73 you will see that down here the page is split into two to start with on this particular book. And down here on the lower right hand side is the reindeer, and it shows him how they've put him together. Now on the top left hand side over here you will see there's a set of Christmas lights. What is not so noticeable is that on your accessory button you have a Christmas tree as well on this particular button. Now it's button number 50. It's on page 73 of the handbook, and the feature keys on this are, this is your base with no feature keys highlighted. This is layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, then you have your accessory feature key, your phrase feature key, and your shadow feature key. Now if an icon is down on the left hand side at the bottom, that is your layer 1 key. If it is up on the top on the right of each of these little compartments, then that is the shift of that particular layer. So you need to press the layer key and shift. So what I'm going to do now is going to go to Cricut Craft Room and show you how these little ones all layer together. Now I've opened up Cricut Craft Room, and on Cricut Craft Room I've put all the layers on the virtual mat. I've used black for the shadow layer, and when you're working with Cricut Craft Room, if you look at this top bar it will tell you layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, and that's the layers of mats that you have. If you put your base layer on first, which is what I would normally do, and then I realised that the shadow layer needed to go underneath the base layer. So in order to do that, you can actually pick up the layer button at the top here and slide it to the left, so that that actually goes underneath the layer that you have just put on. So what I did was I put the shadow layer on in black, because you can colour these layers as well. I put the base layer on in a dark brown. Layer 1 I've put on in a Karatani yellow colour. Layer 2 I've put on in a orangey colour, and layer 3 I've put on in a red. Now layer 3 is a little nose and a little ribbon that goes round the reindeer's neck. What I've done with this is, because I was working in Cricut Craft Room and I knew I wanted to layer them all together, I've used hide contour on this layer 3 so that I've got each separated out so that I can move them. Now when we go down to the accessory button, this is the accessory button, and this is the shift on the accessory. This is the phrase button, which reads joy, and this is the phrase shift. Now with the shadow shift you have the base shadow for the little lights, and the green is the base shift. So with no buttons highlighted at all and the shift button highlighted, you get the base shift. Now the little lights that go on the little Christmas tree lights are on the layer 1, layer 2 and layer 3 shift buttons. Now what I will do now is I will just show you how I will highlight the base layer and take it over the top of the shadow layer. Now I'm not sure whether you'll see this well, but what that shows is that there is a slight black outline around the brown base layer. Then if I click the layer 1 and put it over the top, you'll be able to see that the brown shows through his ears, his eyes, his mouth, and at the hooves of his little feet. When I choose layer 2 and put that over the top, you'll see as I move it over, there's gaps in it which would cut out his holes. And when I line this up over here, you can see this shows the spots on his back, the little nose part, and again it's got little holes so that that base layer shows through in the dark brown. Now, because I've split these with hide contour, I can now show you how I can put the ribbon on and line that up, and that goes round his neck and it lines up with the shadow layer. And this is quite difficult to show. It would cut out quite tiny, and it's his nose, and sometimes it's a bit more difficult to line this up on the screen than it is to line up in real life. So I'll just pop that up there and see if we can't get it in reasonably the right place. And that's not so bad there, and it looks quite cute. And that's how the reindeer lines up and layers up when you put all the layers together. Now, coming down to the accessory and the accessory shift, I will put the accessory shift, which is the yellow trunk of the tree, over the top of the accessory button, and that shows you that that's the trunk of the tree with the branches coming up. Now, with the phrase and the phrase shift, and also the lights, when I put the reindeer on, I had a size of 3. The same with the accessory, I had a size of 3. But when I chose 3 inches for the phrase, it was a 3 inches in height, and it made it very long. So I changed this to a 1-inch layer, so that this was 1 inch, and then it layered at 1 inch as well. So you need to remember that the actual height of your phrase, if I had left this at 3, would have been 3 as well. So you need to check that out. Now, if I click the phrase shift and put it over the top of the phrase layer, you will see that the little snowflake in the middle is highlighted with the background colour of the phrase. Now, when we go to the lights, the red that you see here is the shadow shift layer, and if we put the base layer, which I've done in green, over the top of the shadow shift layer, then you'll see that it looks like you've got a dark outline around the outside of the green lights. This adds depth. Now, sometimes your shadow is not necessary and it doesn't actually show anything particularly except the depth. Now, with the little reindeer, the shadow comes out and gives a little bit more depth to his hooves and to where the ribbon goes. But if you didn't have the black to cut it out, or whatever colour you were going to cut that out in, that wouldn't be too much of a problem, and you can just layer some things without the shadow button. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take each of these little shift layers and put them over the top of the little lights and click off them. I haven't got them quite lined up there very well. And then I will put them over the top of the lights, and it'll give you some idea of what they look like when they're layered up. And the blue one doesn't seem to want to layer up for me at the moment. When you're doing this in real life, it's much easier than doing it on the screen. So there's your shadow shift at the back, which was in red. You've got your base shift layer, which is the green, and you've got your layer 1, 2 and 3 shifts, which are your yellow, blue and green lights. Once you've done those, you can actually add a glitter to the little light bulbs, and that will make them sparkly as well. Now I hope this has given you a bit better idea on what it's like to actually layer up your images and how easy it is to see when you're on Cricut Craft Room. By doing them in the different colours, it makes it easier to see where those layers actually go and which layers you really need. Thank you for watching.